He took the 4,000 from behind the door. He opened the door a little bit and he gave the money away and he kept the door closed. He told them, you surprised me by your request. You surprised me by your request, but this is what I have. فَخُذِ الْقَلِيلِ. Take the little I gave you. 4,000 dirham you gave it. He said, take little things I gave you and pretend as if you've never asked me and I've never answered you. He closes the door, never even seeing the man. He turns back to his daughter Fatima, like the name of her grandmother. She told him, Father, why did you give him everything in the house? We have nothing left even to eat. He said, daughter, عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي عَادَةً. My Lord, my Creator taught me something. And I have been showing him that I'm doing something. He taught me to give me, and I've been showing him to give his slaves. I am afraid if I stop giving his slaves, he would stop giving me. And then he told her, نحن أناس نولنا خضل يرتع فيه الرجاء والأمل تجود قبل السؤال أنفسنا خوفا على ماء وجه من يسأل. We are people, he told her, we are a family, our giving is just open. يجول فيه الرجاء والأمل. The hope and the expectation from us is always swinging. People always swing between their hopes and expectations. Therefore, ourselves give always immediately before even people dare to ask a question. Imam Al-Hassan, many things. Where can we stop and where can we start? And what can we do? And where do we put the light? Because the entire life of Imam Al-Hassan is light. The entire scenes of Imam Hassan is light. Of course, Imam Hassan was also a victim of distortions and of attacks by the Nasibis. The Nasibis are not Sunni Muslims. They are people who are basically the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, who are basically the murderers and the slaughterers and the cursers and those people who gave hardships to Ahlul Bayt, and those who conspire on their crimes and cover their crimes until today. The Nasibis, the enemies of Imam Hassan, did not like that, so they tried to make a separation. Let me just take you through a couple of things where they made a separation. Number one, they tried to say, well, yes, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam loved Al-Hassan and Hussein, but he didn't love them because of, like they're supposed to be loved like that, but because the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam lost his sons Al-Qasim, Tahir, Ibrahim, and he didn't have anyone else, so he replaced his love from his sons to Imam Al-Hassan and Hussein. Why do they want to say this? Because they don't want you to see that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was attached so much to Al-Hassan and Hussein. But we view things differently among Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. We view that the love of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to Al-Hassan and Hussein was not simply a replacement because he lost Al-Tahir, Al-Qasim, wa Ibrahim, but we view that he raised them and heaven raised them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed for Al-Hassan and Hussein to be raised as such so they can become the imams of this ummah and the masters of the youth of Ahl al-Jannah, so they can be a continuous line of representation of their grandfather sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Nabi was attached to them because they were an expression and the extension of his existence on earth sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because that takes us to another thing, because the stands and the positions and the knowledge and the stands they took was also an extension of the stands of their grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because the opinions they had were also taken from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because who they were and where they stood and who they stood with and against and what they did was a continuation of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's why they want to separate that. Another thing, another forgery on Imam Hassan. A forgery that skin that you have goosebumps from. A forgery that the mu'min makes the mu'min. I can't describe the feeling, which is the forgery that calls Imam Hassan as a playboy. They say Al-Hassan married 100 wives, 150 wives, 200 wives. Something that is despicable for someone with any decent level of honor and decency. Any human being, even if not Muslim. Any human being, basic decent human being, would not even dare to do what you think the daughters of Muslims is a game? Or the honors of Muslims is just a game between people taking them like this? But this has a reason. Though history mentions those, ulama al-Seerah, they mention that three wives, names of 3 wives, and they mention 7 to 11 sons. 5 of them were killed in Karbala. But let me ask you, if he had 100 wives, where are the 100 kids? At least 1 kid from each wife. Where are the 100 kids? How come we only have 7? How come history doesn't mention the names of those wives? And was Imam Al-Hassan, who was supposed to be the master of the youth of Ahl Jannah, the one who is spiritually attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, devoted to the wilayah and to the mahabbah and to the ishq of Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was he busy worshipping Allah or he was busy chasing women? But there is a reason for this, because the Nasibis don't want you to know, they want you to discredit Imam Hassan. So, you know, he's not eligible to lead the ummah. He's not this, he's not this. Huh? And also the third thing, a separation from his father. They want to present, to sort of show you, portray that Al-Hassan is different than Ali. Well, in fact, Al-Hassan is simply a result of Ali, his father. And he's a result of Fatima al-Zahra. And he's a continuation of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. And that's where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when Nabi al-Azam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the brothers in Hadith Sahih, mentions Hussein al-Mini, and Al-Hassan wa Hussein Sayyida Shababi Ahli Jannah. When he mentions that, it's not because Al-Hussein is from me, Al-Hassan is from me. It's not that simply because the Prophet ﷺ is their grandfather. That doesn't have any meaning, because every grandson is the grandson of his grandfather. So what's the difference? And your grandson is you're the grandfather of your grandson. No. He is from me, not that I am only his grandfather, but his message is from me. He's a continuation of me. He was raised by me. Imam Al-Hassan was given the opportunity to be given the highest and the most noble of Islamic education on the hands of his grandfather sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, and then on the hands of his mother Fatima al-Zahra, and on the hands of his father Amir al-Mu'mineen. And you would see through the life of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and through the life of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, or Sayyidina Umar, or Sayyidina Uthman, or Sayyidina Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali, where Sayyidina Al-Hassan is taking positions in teaching the people in fatwa and this and that, in jihad. During Sayyidina Uthman, he went to Africa to liberate Africa with the army of Muslims. In the time of Sayyidina Ali, he was with his father radiallahu ta'ala, every single step of the time. He was leader in every single war Sayyidina Ali did. He was there, number 1, number 2 after his father, in every single scene through the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali. And you see where Sayyidina Ali puts him and asks him to answer questions, etc., etc. And you see that really these attempts only hurt the people who invent them from nothing. Because Al-Hassan remains Al-Hassan. Al-Hassan remains Al-Hassan. And Al-Hassan, as Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu mentions, Al-Hakim narrated this, he said, I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he is putting Al-Hassan on one side, and Al-Hussein on one side, and he's kissing one on one time, and he's kissing one the other time. So much that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he is the master of the youth of Ahl Jannah. But again, I want to stop here for just a minute. The master of the youth doesn't mean simply because he's the grandson, because he is worthy of being the master of the youth of Ahl Jannah, because of his deeds and his own merits, because of his own iman and his own yaqeen. This is Al-Hassan. The last thing before, because time is already over, I'll take you through a couple of scenes. After Sayyidina Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali was murdered, people come to Imam Al-Hassan. And they gave him bay'ah, becoming the 5th Khalifa Rashid radiallahu anhu. And they said, Ya Imam, say something. And he stood and he couldn't say much because he was overwhelmed with crying. And he says, oh people, today a great man has passed away. That people from the decessors did not catch up to him, and people from the comers will not be close to him. And then he stopped and he says,